Let's hit it.
Welcome to Earl and the Idiot, the show that gives you the answers you need to take your business to the next level. With Earl Flormata, one of Vancouver's most sought-after business and marketing consultants, author of Business Engine Optimization, consultant to over 60 successful businesses, an all-around evil marketing genius with a combined total of more than $70 million worth of sales to his credit. And some idiot. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Yes, we're joining you at an earlier time today. And this means the sun is streaming. This is as close as my blinds can get, and it's still that bright. They got this. They made
it's bright when.
Yeah, those big slats, and they don't like really close properly. Like if they close properly, I don't know why they're decorative slats and they don't close properly. And so my poor ring light here is not equal to the task of countering the brightness. So I got a kind of light side, dark side thing going on. If I tilt my head like this, it sort of looks kind of evil. If I do that,
if I use, oh yeah, I like that. I like that lighting though. It's got that dark side, light side kind of lighting. It's very cool.
It's very dramatic, but it's not really what you want for a business podcast. I look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Remember when he's like starting to lose his mind? I've even got the receding hairline to go along with it.
Oh, there you go. That's why I wear a hat to hide. It hides my hair loss. So
yeah, brilliant.
I just saw a picture of me from 10 years ago, and I had the big long flowing hair. And I'm like, yeah, I missed that. So
hurts, doesn't it?
A little bit. It's like, I'm older. Where's the proof? The hair. Oh, no.
Yeah. You ever run into somebody or see somebody on Facebook that you knew from high school and you're like, God, look how old that person is.
It's like, oh my God, wait, they're my age. Oh crap.
Yeah, whoops. It's like the thing that's really bothering me is that people I met in high school now have kids that are the age that they were when I met that person in high school.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. That's horrifying. That just.
Right. No.
Oh,
stop.
Man. Stop it. So, yeah. No, my kids are now in high school and they're taller than my wife, and it's interesting.
Oh my God. I just realized I didn't do my thing of having the photo behind me.
Oh yeah, you've been doing that thematic. Like the last time was Scrooge McDuck, and then the last time before that was Enterprise. So.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought of what to do because we just came up with our idea just now. So I wasn't on top of it, but I think I got it now. Hang on, I'm gonna
do the shot of the Simpsons from their kitchen where the telephone is hanging on the wall. No,
that'd be good.
Communication, right? There you go. The telephone game. It always boggles my mind how people screw that up. There you go, an operator.
Telephone operator. This is the essence of communication right here.
Plug in the right person to say the right thing.
Apparently somebody worked out that if we tried to run phones this way today, that if you had to physically connect it like that, it would require more people to run it than there are people in the United States.
There you go.
Okay, so let's get into it here.
Jump right in.
Yeah, we actually kind of are jumping right in. We didn't dawdle. How are you? How's your week going? We usually dawdle for a bit first.
Oh, I'm doing great. It was my anniversary yesterday, and so we did the whole anniversary thing, and that was fun. Got some, massages, so that was pretty neat, and then took a walk, and then went to some fancy French food. It was a fun experience.
Nice. What anniversary is this?
19th for wedding.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
Attaboy. Good for you.
So there you go.
And loving as ever, I'm sure.
And now the kids are bigger than her, and they might grow bigger than me. So now we're living in fear and cowering. So anyway.
Could your kids beat you up yet? They probably don't have your training.
No, but they finally asked for me to train them, which is like, really?
Oh, there you go.
Finally, yeah.
That gladdens your heart, I'm sure.
They finally asked to train. I'm like, sweet. So, although I did train my son a little bit, and a bully did try to pick on him, and the bully didn't make it. He beat him up. So Like you're not allowed
Yeah.
to throw the first punch, but you got to throw the last one. So
Last
there
one,
you
yeah.
go.
That's one thing I regret is I wish I could go back. I wasn't really interested at the time, but I realize now that like I was afraid of getting beaten up. You know, if a bully was bullying me, I'd be afraid when I was younger. Even though I was like bigger than most of them by like a full head, I was still
You're a
just
tall dude.
yeah. I was never a fighter, and so if someone was like, "I'm gonna beat the crap out of you," I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa!" I'd be really scared. And I realized that if you just get that training, you know, you get practice getting punched and punching people, the fear would go out of it. Then you wouldn't be worried about bullies anymore. You know what I mean?
The really cool lesson that stuck with me throughout the years from my teachers was if you fear the blade, you'll get cut. If you welcome the blade, you'll get cut less. So smile and nod,
yeah,
wandering into the fist fight, knowing you're probably going to get punched in the face because that's how it works.
yeah, yeah.
But-
It's more important than the punch is the control by fear of the punch.
Mhm.
And if you take that away, forget about it.
Nope. Then I just smile and nod, walking into this thing, going, "Hey, he's gonna hit me in the head anyway. Well, let's go."
Might as well go for it. All right, cool. Now I think we've dawdled enough. Let's
There
let's
you go.
dive right into
Now
it.
we
that
can
we've
dive right
dawdled- Yeah, all right. So yeah, this is kind of based on a true story this week. We're talking the prompt is name and label 10 pertinent, I like that word, pertinent points for effective communication between business entities. In other words, how do you talk to people? How do you talk to, I guess, business entities would include clients and your subcontractors and your associates and your boss and your employees and everybody.
Yeah, but communication is kind of the unifying force across everything. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, unless you literally work by yourself, for yourself, with nobody else.
Which I do.
Right?
I did until
no.
you screwed it up by hiring a subcontractor for me.
yeah, but I mean, you still have to talk to the client. You still have to talk to da. So there's always that layer of communication that exists in between things. But I only know, and I know like thousands of people, maybe I want to say 3 or 4 people who truly don't have to talk to anybody as part of their business. Right? And it's few and far between, right? So they literally have to function and do well in their business. Maybe 3 or 4 out of the thousands of people that I know don't actually need to talk to anybody. I'm like, wow, that's crazy, right? Because there's always something. Like even if you just sell stuff on the internet, there's still customer service. You have to communicate, email back and forth. Hey, I want to return this package. Blah blah blah. There's still stuff. Only 3 or 4 people that I know that don't have anything. No customer service, no communication, no emails back, and nothing. I'm like, wow. So yeah. So this is
I think like running
skill.
affiliate marketing is about the only thing I can think of.
Yep. The 3 dudes I know
Yeah.
are like super affiliates. They make $1 gajillion, but there's nothing back and forth for them to actually go do because they've automated all the back and forth bits. So
Note to self: become affiliate marketer. Stop communicating to people.
become hermit to win.
Become hermit. I mean, really, isn't that the ultimate? Is like get an internet connection to your cabin in the woods and just be done with it.
If that's your thing, right? Like I'm weird. I'm like half introvert, half extrovert now. I was born an introvert, but I became an extrovert through having to learn how to speak on stage, which is supposed to be the greatest fear in the world. But so there you go. So I'm kind of half introvert, half extrovert at this point. Like so
actually it's kind of funny. I'm definitely an extrovert. I actually I get charged up. I enjoy interacting with people. I actually like speaking on stage. I always have. I've been in plays and stuff like that. But I'm at the point now where I'm sort of tired of it. I can do it. I'm good at it, but it's like,
mine is a complete coin flip. Some days I get energized from it. Some days I am completely exhausted after doing it. So it's just, and I don't know which one it's going to be that day. So it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So here I'm just sort of looking through these things that ChatGPT has told us. This robot instructing the humans on how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And I can already tell some of these are I'm gonna just be a lot of charged up energy is going to be released here on this right off the bat. How to effectively communicate between business entities. Number 1 is clarity. Communicate in a clear and concise manner. Avoid jargon, acronyms, and technical terms that may be unfamiliar to the other party. I feel like these are 2 separate things. Communicate in a clear and concise manner, for God's sake. Yes.
There are some people I know use 35 words instead of 3. And
Yeah.
it is never fun listening to them because it's just like this just drones on, and I'm like, guys, get to the point.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely dealt with not just business people, but other types of people who go on and on and on, and then you sort of at the end of it, you're like, what do you want?
Yeah, I'm still not sure. I'm like, wait, there was an ask, but I'm now unclear. So I'm more confused now than I was even before, right? So yeah.
I had this homeless guy come up to me, and he's like, I need some help here. I'm like, well, what do you need? And he's like, well, you see, my friends are they the bus to Whistler left, and you see, I was supposed to be on the bus, and then I was like, no, what do you need? He's like, well, I need some help because I blah blah. I'm like, what do you need? He's like, oh, money. I was like, oh, okay, no. Right, we could have saved both of. He could have moved on to the next guy. Obviously I wasn't the one to talk to. He could have moved on to the next guy and asked them for money instead. But he's giving me this long spiel, and I'm like, no, just cut to it. What are you after?
Yep, I've had one of those too. I got off of the SkyTrain near Science World, and some guy just rushes up to us, says, "I'm a computer programmer at Science World." I'm like, okay, off the bat, no, those don't exist.
Yeah.
My tell this elaborate story. It's all full of shit.
Yeah.
Just ask for money, bro. Right.
My favorite was the guy who came up to me. His opening line, we could get off on the whole thing. Living in Vancouver is to live with the homeless. They're calling them unhoused persons now, I think. Anyway, persons experiencing homelessness. That's the thing. It's person first language, right? It's a person experiencing homelessness. They figure this engenders empathy. When you realize they're a person first,
right,
in this condition, instead of saying a homeless person, you put them in this category person. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. What was my point? Oh yeah. So this guy came up to me, and his opening line, his opening salvo in the try to get some money from me was, hey, look, hey man, listen, I'm not a pedophile or anything.
There's a good opening line. Line.
Like, I don't recall accusing you of that, sir. We've just met.
There's a guy with a sign that says, if you give me money, I'm going to blow it on drugs and booze. But at least I'm honest.
Clarity.
But at least I'm honest. And I'm like, you know what? That was the best marketing I've seen to date. And because you were interesting, I gave that guy money.
Yeah. Nothing worse than feeling like someone's trying to give you the runaround. Just give it to you straight up. All right, have a good time, buddy. Here's $1.
Exactly. So what's the offer? What's the ask? What do you want?
What's the ask? Yeah, exactly. Communicate in a clear and concise manner. Now, here's a question: have you experienced, in the thousands of people you've met, different regional differences in how direct people are in their communication?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
In North America, we're very blunt and straightforward, and it's just, this is the way it is. In Asia, they say yes even though they mean no.
Right.
And it drives me crazy. They just say no, right? Because they don't want to say no because they don't want to offend the other party. Yeah. But if you don't know what they're explaining and you say yes, I presume that you know what I'm talking about, and I move forward, right?
Yeah.
So where especially in like Japan, like Japanese, they just say yes as a knee-jerk reaction to many things, not a no. And then they try to work their way around it, which again, it's a nice way to not be rude, but at the same time, it puts up walls and barriers to communications.
Be rude.
But if you had just said no, right, then I would have explained it deeper, and we wouldn't be in the mire that we're in now. Yeah. Right. Well, the same thing goes for everywhere, though. I mean, like saying yes when you don't mean it, it's just slow stuff down.
Yeah. You know what the most useless phrase I ever learned when I was in Taiwan was? Ni hui shou zhongguin ma? I may have forgotten how to say it, which means, do you speak English? And because it's useless because they always say yes. Actually, no, they always say a little. That's always the answer you get. And a little can mean anything from none at all to totally fluent. Right. So you're never informed when you ask the question, because they never want to be rude and say, no, I'm sorry, I don't speak English. but they also don't want to be rude and be like, yeah, I'm perfect in English. What do you need? So they always say a little. You always get the same answer, and you only find out the truth in the next when you start trying to speak English to them.
Oh, it's funny. When I met my then kung fu teacher, how much martial arts do you know? He's like, a little. He kicked the shit out of me. A little.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
It's always a
I
little.
place in tournaments and I couldn't even touch this guy. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, you know more than a little. So
Nice.
there you go.
In terms of regional, you say North America is blunt, but even within that, Canada is way more roundabout than, like, particularly the East Coast of the United States. Those guys are direct, man.
Yeah, the New Yorkers, I love them because of their directness.
Yeah.
Right? Doing business with a New Yorker, freaking great. They tell you like it is. Yeah, I'm interested. No, I'm not. Hey, show me more. Right? Or I want to buy, and if I want to buy, I want to buy it now. Like, oh wow, this is like holy cow! Like there's no beating
Yeah.
around the bush. There's no,
And coming
Go-see
from
doing.
Canada, yeah, coming from Canada, I didn't realize that we were this sort of circumspect, indirect way of talking. And when I was actually in London, you'd think that the English would be more polite, but it's a class thing there. If you're in the working class of England, they're very direct and they really tell you what they're thinking.
Yep.
And for the first little bit, I was like, you guys are so rude. Everyone's so rude around here. Like, I was just so offended. And then once you figure it out that, oh, they're actually saying what's on their mind. Like, Canadians are exactly as rude as that. They just don't let you know.
right.
Right. And once you get the hang of it, and it's also like when they're rude to you, it doesn't mean like you say with the New Yorker, you're like, well, here's this business idea. When they're like, no, I'm not interested in that. It's not the end of the communication. They're just letting you know I'm not interested. But now is your point be like, okay, cool, you're not interested. But what about this? Like you have to now, you realize what you have to do. You have to try to interest the guy because he's let you know he's not interested.
Right.
But if you in Canada, someone's like, hey, blah, 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 and you're like, I'm not interested in that. So you're like, how can you be so rude?
I would rather get the no. I'd rather get the no than the run around yes. It's so much more
The
direct.
fake yes. The actual no, which is framed as a yes. One of my favorite stories is I met this woman who was from Washington, D.C., and she moved out here, and she had a contractor working on her kitchen.
Mhm.
And she came downstairs one day and he'd done something wrong or not the way she wanted. And she came in and she's like, oh no, this is all wrong. No, you did this wrong. You screwed that up. This is supposed to be like that. That's supposed to be like that. And the contractor started crying.
What?
He started crying. She's like, why are you crying? He's like, you're being so rude right now. And she's like, I'm just telling you what I want. There's no rudeness in it. You're my employee and I'm telling you which way you want to do it. The guy started crying. It's my favorite story. I love that story.
I don't know. I'd rather be direct than indirect because there's only two ways to rip off a band-aid, right? Quickly and painfully or slowly and painfully.
Yeah.
Each of them requires pain. One of them lasts longer. So do you want to be in pain for longer? No. I'd rather be in pain for a short amount of time, make a course correction, then find out later when it's much, much worse.
Just toughen up. This is sort of slightly off topic, but take a shot for the drinking game. As a digression. But one of my favorite pieces of advice I ever got when you work in construction. You ever work in construction? You ever done that kind of stuff?
I tried to get fired like a week because I suck at it.
Fair enough.
So
the thing I found out is there's always a trick to stuff.
Mhm.
Right? I'll be trying to hold something and nail it in place or whatever. They'll be like, oh, just grab another 2x4 and stick it in there and that'll hold it. Whatever. There's always a faster, easier way to do stuff than
the hack of the week, but for construction.
The hack of the week, yeah. And this one time I was using a jackhammer for the first time. My boss set me up. He's like, here's your jackhammer up this piece of sidewalk. I'll be back in an hour or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm going away and my wrists are getting super sore and swollen, like really hurting from this. And I was like, maybe I'm holding it wrong. Is there a way to do this? Like I'm thinking, is there a trick to not have your wrist get sore? And this guy, my boss came back. He's a French-Canadian guy. And I said, hey, he's like, how's it going? I'm like, oh, we're going good, but my wrists are getting really sore. Is there some trick to this? And he goes, what you want to do there is toughen. He gets in the car and drives away.
He called you a bitch.
He called me, basically. What you want to there is not be a whiny bitch and just toughen up. And great advice. I did, and I finished jackhammering.
There you go.
All right, we're spending a lot of time on this. We may have to break this one up into 2 episodes, but let's see. And actually, just the second point: avoid jargon, acronyms, and technical terms that may be unfamiliar to the other party. I think this is huge. Some people really suffer from this. They want to sound smart.
They want to say stuff that makes them smart, and I'm like, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut said, "Any scientist who can't explain what he's doing to a 10-year-old is a fraud."
Right. Absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah. So that's pretty straightforward. The jargons, acronyms, technical terms, you might be familiar with them. Your customer, whoever is not, and you're just going to spend a lot of time explaining it or getting the wrong thing because you didn't ask properly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. Active listening, number 2. It sounds a little airy-fairy, but let's see. Practice active listening by giving the speaker your full attention and asking questions to clarify any misunderstanding.
Paraphrasing stuff is important. So they say it one way, you say, do you mean like this? And then you paraphrase what they said, but in the way that you both understand. And so there's a commonality of the bridge between the two of you. And it just being able to paraphrase something back and showing understanding of it in a different light, it just shortens the road by a whole bunch. You mean like this, right? And when you can say it like that, and if both of you understand the this and the like this portion, man, communication gets real streamlined real quick, right?
Yeah.
So active listening,
I one thing I always do whenever someone's explaining something to me, I pretty much always, when they finish explaining it, I'll say, let me say it back to you to make sure I understand.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
and I kind of feel this, the part of this is like active listening. I mean, just give you speaker your full attention. Yeah, duh. You know what I mean? Like, pay attention to the guy who's talking. Hello. But then asking questions to clarify any misunderstandings. There's a part of that toughness and honesty in there of like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But sometimes it's the calling yourself out, saying, I don't know what acronym this means.
Yes.
I looked it up, but I found 17 other acronyms that say the same thing, and they're all completely different. Right? Yeah. Which one is it? Or can you can you shine some light?
Yeah. There's the honesty and the toughness in there, because you have to be honest with the person and say, look, I honestly don't understand what you're saying. Like, and the problem could be they're explaining or you're understanding, right? So you have to be humble enough to be like, I'm not understanding this at all. And don't be prideful.
Yeah. And just say, I know, and then you don't. It just gets worse.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna butcher this, but isn't there like multiple sides to everything? It's what you said, it's what they heard, it's what you meant, it's what they interpreted it as, right?
Right.
And then it was like, and then all the little minuscule bits and pieces in between. So it's just like, I said this, but I meant that. They heard this, but it meant this, and they understood that. And it was a completely different thing. And that's when the two ships go passing in the night and no one knows what the hell the other guy just said, right? So
there's 4 ways it could have gone wrong.
But that's where the active listening and the clarity and the communication comes in, right? Like this, if you keep saying starboard and I'm not a guy on a boat, I have no idea what the hell you just said, right? So
just remember, I've never forgotten this. I asked a ship captain about this, and he said port and left are both 4-letter words.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's it. Never forgotten ever since.
That's how I learned it too, as a sea cadet of all things.
Oh, did not know.
Port and left. Yeah.
Port and left. Number 3, respect. Show respect for the other party's opinions and perspectives. Avoid interrupting or belittling them.
Well, on the respect side, from the interruption portion, if they're not done explaining it yet and you interrupt them, you could be tangenting really hard and going the wrong direction until they're done.
As I often do.
So it happens to everybody, right? I do the same thing too. I interrupt and go, do you mean this? Trying to actively listen. And I'm completely off the deep end. No, I don't mean that. Let me finish.
I have a problem when I understand what they're saying before they're done explaining it. You know what I mean? They're doing a long-winded, repetitive explanation. Sometimes they start repeating themselves. And
35
I've already got
versus 3. Oh yeah.
But you've already got it. You want to jump in and just be like, stop. Stop them from talking. I think there's a way to do that successfully though. Be like, oh, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Blah, blah, blah. Right. Cool. So, and then you're like, take it off in the next direction.
Right. But then you do that pause, like, hang on, I'm sorry. I want to ask a question to clarify. Do you mean like this? Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're doing it from a place of understanding, trying to show that you're either understanding or that you want to make sure you're going the right direction, it's less interrupty for them, right? But there's some people who you interrupt them and they completely lose their train of thought, and that's the end of that. They're gone.
Train of thought is off the rails.
That's it.
I sort of think of this. It says show respect to the other party's opinions and perspectives. Now, there's a lot of opinions and perspectives I don't respect.
Yeah.
But I guess when we're talking in a business sense, if your client has an opinion and a perspective, you should at least respect the fact that that's their opinion and perspective.
Well, hear it out, understand, where it's coming from, and then feel free to challenge it after you've understood where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm. But you always, and this is a big point too, you always will get a lot further coming from a place of respecting the person, even if you disagree with the opinion.
Right. And then you just start off that the disagreement with, have you considered? Right. Mm-hmm. And then you come in from the other vector. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. I've never seen it like that before. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. If you challenge it directly, people dig in and have to reinforce their belief.
Mm-hmm. Whereas if you go around and go, hey, have you ever looked at it from this side? I see where you're coming from. Have you ever thought of looking at it from this angle? Does this make sense? Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's respectful, so it's not like you're directly attacking them. You're asking, a valid question, going, "Hey, ever zigged when you were supposed to zag?"
Mm-hmm.
Never know.
Yeah, or asking questions about is that always true, or is there any circumstance where that wouldn't be the case, or asking questions about their opinion, allowing them to inspect it for themselves. They can sometimes come to fresh opinions.
Absolutely. Well, when you do that with respect, then they give you the chance of looking from the other side. If you don't, then like you said, they just dig. People are like dogs. We're the same, right? You take a dog by the leash and you lead him to wherever you want to go. He'll follow. He'll go wherever you want to go. You take the dog by the leash and you pull. He just does this and digs in and doesn't want to go, right?
Yeah.
But you do it cheerfully, they'll follow you to the ends of the earth, right? You do it forcefully, no, I'm stopping right here.
Yeah, exactly. I've dug my paws in sometimes. So, treat people with respect, but don't say with respect, because that drives me insane. With respect, you're an idiot. Well, that's not with respect, is it?
Unless that's your brand, just say it.
Yeah, the Karen restaurant. You know about the Karen restaurant?
I saw that. I'm horrified.
Yeah, I'm going.
Excellent.
It's funny, if you can just toughen up, it's hilarious. Because especially here in Canada, like we were just talking, we're so polite that having someone be rude and direct is like, it's a relief. It feels like a nice cool dip in the sea. Yeah,
but on the whole aspect of Karen, the whole internet Karen thing has been so strong that no kid has been named Karen in a bunch of areas for the last year and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We eliminated the word Karen, the name Karen. I've known a few Karens. They were really nice. All right, moving on. Tone. Use a tone that is professional, respectful, and courteous. Avoid using a confrontational or hostile tone that may lead to misunderstandings.
Ooh. The problem with tone is that people will insinuate whatever they're currently reflecting upon, right? So if they're in a bad situation, the tone that they hear versus the tone that's intended. This goes back to what you said, how you said what you meant, what they heard, what they understood, what came across. And so, tone, the email itself might have been toneless or neutral, but if they're in a bad spot, and the email comes in just right timing, it just pisses people right off. And it's like, oh man. And I've been guilty of this too. If I'm in a bad mood and something hits me, I'll read into it stuff that doesn't exist. Right? People are like that. So sometimes it's a second reading of it and stepping back and going, wait, okay, so you're not having a bad day, it's a normal day. Read it again. Oh, it's a completely fine message, right?
Yeah.
So tone
Yeah.
makes a difference.
I had a major blow up with a friend one time over a text message that I thought was respectful and he thought was disrespectful. And I mean, the friendship was basically over at that point and ended the whole thing. But that's a story for another time. But I'll tell you one thing though, with this tone that's professional, respectful, and courteous, don't be phony. Don't have a phony
Yeah.
tone. Drives me insane.
Tell it like it is, but but watch your tone and your tonality too, right? There's people that are near and dear to me in my life who are terrible at tone, the worst ever at tone. And they'll say something and no one will take it and no one will run with it and no one will side with them because their tone was freaking terrible. The idea itself, fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the tone in which it was delivered was just horrendous. And then nobody takes their side and they're like, why does no one like my ideas? Because of the way you presented the idea. It was just like, well, everybody else is dumb but me. Ta-da. Right. I'm like, that's not going to win you any friends or support or anything, right? So
yeah,
you're just asking for trouble at that point. So there you go. Tone, definitely important.
Nice. So number 5, timeliness. This is one I kind of have trouble with sometimes. Communicate in a timely manner, respond promptly to emails, phone calls, and other forms of communication.
What's missing from this piece though, timeliness, is also timeliness in respect to what the other person's currently experiencing, what they're going through, right? Sometimes this is a good time to ask and a bad time to ask, right? And if you ask during the bad time, the answer is always no. You ask during a good time, the answer is always yes, right? So timing is also relevant in terms of what's the other side experiencing, and if they're going through a hard time, sometimes it's a good time to ask, sometimes it's a bad time to ask, right? Because if they're overwhelmed or it's just too much for them, then the knee-jerk reaction is no, go away.
Right. Now, on the other hand, the thing I have trouble with is I'll be out somewhere doing something else. You get an email from someone, hey, what's the something or other? And you go, oh, well, I can't respond to that now. I'll respond when I get home.
Right.
And then you completely forget about it. And now it's not in your new emails section or texts or whatever. And it disappears. Do you have a hack for that? Is there a way to keep, do you
I just set it to unread.
Oh, after you read it?
Yep. If I read it and I go, I'm not doing that right now, unread. That way when I go back to it, it's all in the unread pile and I go, oh, I totally read that, but I didn't do anything. So
God damn you, Earl. This is why I'm the idiot. Hang on, let me change my thing. See, the solutions are always so simple, and you're sitting right on top of them. I have no clue.
Hey, this is to tame my ADHD. If I don't do this, then the ADHD wins. So, so some people have shiny object syndrome. If I don't mark stuff as unread, it's gone. So
there we go. Name changed.
Clearly an idiot. That's great.
So that's good. Now the other side of this is the fact that these days with phones and everything, everyone expects instantaneous communication.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right.
I have to remind people I check emails twice a day.
Yeah, got to set those boundaries.
Twice a day. If you have an emergency, this is how I respond to emergencies and where I respond to emergencies. I literally have 5 pages of communication tools on my phone. Right. So there's WhatsApp, there's Messenger, there's WeChat for people in China, there's Line for people in Japan, there's Skype for the weird people who still use Skype. Right. Right. There's just a regular texting app. Right. There's other apps that let you talk and disappear stuff like Snapchat. There's people who instant message me on Instagram who I never ever replied to because I forget how to get to the instant message on Instagram. Right. So there's one person's like, oh, I'm gonna be in town, blah 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 blah. Totally missed all of our communication because it was an Instagram. Like I saw the message, but I honestly at the time didn't know how to get into the messaging on Instagram because it was new. I'm like, I don't know how to answer you. I don't know where to find it. So guess we're not gonna meet. So yeah. There's just too many things to look at, right? So I just tell people if it's important, this is the line to hit me up on, and if you don't hit me up on this thing, ain't nothing gonna happen. So there you go.
It's kind of the tiers, right? It's sort of like email, text, and phone call are the tiers of urgency. And text would include all the other messaging apps.
Right. But if it shit's on fire and you need to get a hold of me, call my ass. Right?
Yeah.
call, and if I don't answer,
Oh.
call again, and then leave a message, right? Like leave a message via text or whatever. So I tried calling twice, blah blah blah. Here's the message. This part's on fire. Can you help? So
Okay. Oh my God, this next one. Oh, relevance. Ensure that the communication is relevant to the other party's needs and interests. Avoid discussing topics that are not relevant to the business relationship.
all I can hear is Grandpa Simpson talking about I wore an onion on my belt.
And which was the style at the time.
Exactly. And then just lapsing into some story that goes nowhere.
Yeah. Give me 4 B's for $1, they used to say.
So yeah, especially working with the older generation, sometimes that relevance thing, they just want to tell you a story for the sake of telling you a story. And like, I'd love to listen to the story. I don't got time for that right this minute. So
one thing I've always heard with the older generation, I've noticed with the older generation, is they always want to teach you stuff. They always want to teach you a lesson, which, God bless them. Often, they have excellent wisdom to give from a lifetime, but sometimes it's like we're doing a thing right now. Can we just do the thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have time for the lesson later. ABC is on fire. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's put the fire out, and then you can tell me all the stories you want. So yeah, relevance. That goes with relevance, tone, and timing, right?
Yeah. Consistency. Be consistent in your communication. Use the same language, tone, and format in all your communication with the other party. I don't know about that. What do you think about that?
Oh my God.
You're holding your head. For those listening on audio.
There was this one time somebody messaged me on, I think it was Signal. Then they responded to me on Telegram. Then they asked me another question on Discord. Then they tried to find me on Slack. And then they sent me an email asking me why I haven't answered them yet.
Oh my God.
And it just hurt my brain and soul so much because I'm like, pick a damn channel. I will follow it. But if you hit me on 17 different channels, then I answer you on some and not on the other ones, and this and that. It's just like, why haven't you answered me yet? I did. If you check the other channel you asked on, it's already there, right? And it's just people not understanding. Pick one damn thing and then answer back and forth on that. Stay consistent. And I know that's not what this one means. Where it says consistent, be consistent in your communication. Use the same language, tone. Use the same.
But it does say format.
Yeah, use the same messaging system, please. Because people switching messaging systems drives me crazy. So
yeah, I've definitely had that where I've had a conversation, like a running conversation with someone that tracks across a few different services, and they go, like my earlier text, and you're like, wait, which? And you have to go searching, oh, I sent you that link, and you're like, wait, you emailed it to me? WhatsApp? You texted it? What did you do?
Right, and they talk to you on 7 different platforms, and you have to go guessing. It takes you longer to guess and find it than it would have if they just use the same platform over and over again. Right. So there you go.
Now it says use the same language and it says use the same language and tone. I'm not sure I agree with that. You use the language and tone that's appropriate for what you're trying to get done.
Agreed, but like if there's a particular language style that you use and a particular tone style that you use within the organization, keep that consistent, right? So and so I'm half agreeing, half disagreeing with that position, because here's the standard communication template that I'm used to. Shit's on fire, you shift it, all of a sudden my brain notices, hey, there's a shift, probably some stuff on fire, right? But keep that same language and consistency within the organization so that it's got that simple cadence to it. And then if the cadence breaks, something's up, right? So it's a better early warning system.
Yeah. As far as tone goes or consistency, what do you think? What's your thoughts on the efficacy of anger in communication?
Some things need to have anger associated with it, right? So if somebody just pissed off your biggest client, you need to express some of that anger at a certain point in time, saying, hey, you can't do that. They're our biggest account. Don't piss off that guy.
Yep.
Otherwise, none of us are getting paid today. So that's kind of an important thing. So obviously you need to start with, and it's more difficult, start with the calm piece, but you do need to express that. Otherwise, bottling it up, you're going to just go nuts anyways. And
why should you have to absorb it all, right?
Right, but the other side may not understand the the graveness of the error that they've just committed, right?
Yeah.
So unless they
This is a
understand
big
that,
deal.
but you don't go running in, guns blazing, screaming. Otherwise, they're just going to run or not listen anyways, right?
Mhm. So bringing this back to what prompted all this in the first place. So I'm dealing with, an overseas contractor for some of my, subcontracting some of my work out.
Mhm.
Sometimes that you run into a frustrating situation with them. We'll just
Absolutely.
say. And maybe there's a cultural relevance to it. Do you find if you get like sometimes you want to just absolutely lay into them, but on that long distance, and when you don't have the person in front of you, and there might be cultural differences in understanding that anger, is it effective? Is it bad to use it on that communication line, or
You have to use it appropriately, right? So if you have, if you believe that they understand what it is that you want at a 100% level, and they fail to meet that bar, then obviously you're going to be frustrated and you want to show that anger, going, hey, this is not acceptable. However, at the same time, if you don't ask, like there's a game I used to play with my coaching students where I would take a ball, roll it up, or paper, roll it up, and go, okay, I want you to catch on 3, 1, 2, and I'd throw it behind me, right? And they'd be like, wait, I'm never going to catch that. Yeah, because my throw was shitty. I'm like, yeah. Let me ask you a question. Is it artificial intelligence's fault if you ask the wrong question? No. The artificial intelligence is doing its very best to give you what you asked for.
Mhm.
Is it the overseas worker's fault if you don't give them the exact parameters of stuff? And no, it goes back to the original asker, right? So stuff that where people drop the ball would be, what is the size of the file that I'm expecting back? Like what are the measurements of this thing,
I
right?
feel like I'm getting called out a little bit here, Earl.
So, but this is everybody. I'm the same. I'm the same.
Yeah.
So whenever I ask
It's
for
a little
things,
specific. I'm just saying.
so whenever I ask for things, and it's the same thing for me, if I don't give a file size, a file type, a density, a DPI, this is what we're going to be using it for. Like if I say that this is just for social media and then I'm trying to use it for print, that's my fault. And I've made that mistake lots of times, right? Whereas if it is for print, as an example, and the file size is too heavy, and I've done the exact opposite where I try to put this thing on the internet, I'm like, God, this file is slow. And I see the size of the file, like, oh my God, this is like a 75 megabyte JPEG. Like, probably shouldn't do that. That'll slow the site down just a little bit. And then they're like, oh yeah, well, I made that for print. And I'm like, oh no, please reduce the file size. Right. So getting to the specificities of everything, right? Like sometimes I have to differentiate between RGB and CMYK for an image, right?
Yeah.
So this is what we're looking for. This is what the end result is, right? Which it actually leads into the hack of the week, which we can do early if you want, which actually fits this spot perfectly. Shall we?
Nope. Stick to the rules, Earl.
Stick to the rules. Okay, well we'll go back to the hack later. But there's structures where you outline things that you don't think need to be outlined, and I know this goes against some of the relevancy portion and some of the timeliness portions that we just talked about, but doing it ahead of time more than required actually ends up saving time rather than wasting time.
Right.
So, and I'm guilty of all of the above. I watched you go through this ordeal the first time through, and I go, he didn't ask for that. He forgot to ask for this. And the thing is, I have gone through all those errors myself, right? Which is why I wanted you to experience it, so you'd see, hey, this is the ball throw, this is the catch, right? And unless you, like you said, you spell it out for a 5-year-old. If it's not clear enough for a 5-year-old to understand, the clarity of your ask isn't strong enough. And this goes for, it doesn't matter, right? So, because I've asked AI a bunch of questions too, but not giving it precise pieces of information. It turns out, and I was just watching this on YouTube the other day, that you can use ChatGPT to give directions to Midjourney that are even more powerful than you'd imagine. So there's this preset bunch of stuff that you give it inside of ChatGPT. The ChatGPT creates the Midjourney prompt, and it is crazy what it ends up producing. It's like using this style of camera, using this style of art, using this. It went way over and beyond the art style that we talked about with the melty clocks. This thing is like, use this much exposure, use this much, and like it's setting system. It actually talks about settings on the camera for the aperture of the picture to come out, and I'm like, wait, you can do that? And then when I saw the output that came out, it blew my brains out. I'm like, I didn't know you could ask it that. I didn't know you could specify the light level in the background. I'm like, what? And then once you understand that you can set the aperture on this damn thing,
oh my God,
man, night and day difference in my asks, right? So yeah, I felt you while you were going through the asks, but it's a learning experience, definitely, right? But it's also a growth experience. If you ever want to grow, you would have run into the exact same issues with hires, right? Like direct hires. The only difference is that the time frame in between them will be different if you're sitting next to the guy.
Yeah. So I think it drove me crazy. That's the timeliness in the communication, because there's always at least 24 hours before you hear back on most of these.
Yep. So the better you throw the ball, the better they catch the ball, the better they throw the ball back to you. And you lose those extra days of rolling stuff back and forth, the more information you give. And it sometimes seems like overkill, but if it saves you, 3 days of back and forth, the extra 3 lines is worth it, right?
Then it's just kill.
Yeah.
All right, we're kind of running low on time here. Let's cut through the rest of these. I like this one. Feedback. Encourage feedback from the other party. This will help you understand their needs and expectations and improve the quality of your communication. Yeah, let people know they can talk back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I also throw back at and I know this sounds like this is in hindsight 2020, it's like, can you open the file? Do you have questions about this? When you open the file, is there anything strange that stands out that you would change if it were up to you, right? And so putting that stuff back and forth and then asking for the feedback, because again, this is a cultural thing. Most of the people who work in the VA space do exactly as they're told, exactly what they were told to do, because that's what's expected in that culture. Whereas, asking them for feedback is almost I'm allowed to talk to the boss like this?
What?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I used to manage a room of 300 people in India for tech support, and asking them to give feedback on ways to solve things at a better, faster rate was completely unheard of to them. They're like, no, we follow the textbook. We follow exactly like no. If there's a fast way to do something, explain it, right? And for them, that was like blasphemy. Like, you can't, you can't do that. Yes, it works faster. Yes, we all know it works faster. No, we're not allowed to talk about that. So,
yeah, which I think is a terrible way to run things. You should be able, people should be able to speak up, right?
But that again, in that culture, India, depends, Pakistan, they're not meant to speak up. They're meant to follow the damn procedure, right? So there you go. It changes stuff by a lot. So anyway.
Good. Okay, next one. Clarity of purpose. Clearly state the purpose of the communication. This will help the other party understand the objective of the communication, respond accordingly. It's kind of the same as clarity we talked already earlier.
No, it's different. Clarity is speaking in a concise manner where you can use fewer words, right? So the guy uses 30 words versus the guy uses 3 words. Clarity of purpose, saying who this is for, is a night and day difference, right? So when you say this is for a restaurant, we're going to print this thing as a physical paper, right? Versus
I thought that was clear. I thought it was clear. Nope.
I know it sounds obvious to us, but it's not obvious.
It was a menu. It was a menu, for God's sake.
But realize that in Asia, the menus are all QR codes, and you scan it, and it's a digital thing. So all of a sudden, it's like, no, it's different, right? Their
Hmm.
presumption is it's going to be a QR code that you scan and off it goes.
Right.
Because when you go to Asia, everything's a freaking QR code.
I saw a meme that said I'm not scanning a QR code for the menu at your restaurant. I'm with the boomers on this one.
There you go. But that's
Yeah.
just it, though. Like in the culture piece, right? Like in Mongolia, as an example, there's a QR code on every receipt, which is your receipt in QR code format. If you don't give this, the government gets mad at you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
To me, it's like, that sounds great. Oh my God, the government doesn't accept it, a QR code. That's crazy.
Huh.
So who knew?
All right. Clarity of purpose. Number 10, the last thing that robots think we should do to communicate effectively. Follow up on your communication to ensure the other party has understood the message. Yeah, this would have been good. This will help prevent misunderstandings and ensure that the communication has been effective.
There's a saying called the fortunes in the follow-up. And that saying holds true no matter what department that you're in, right? In sales, follow up. You don't follow up, you don't get the sale, right? In communications department, marketing departments, if you don't follow up, some stuff will run by the wayside. There's always some emergency that'll take precedence, blah, 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 something happens. Yeah, follow up is key in everything. So, having a system to follow up. One of the things I teach people when they build out communications and CRMs and all this stuff is always have a next step. And that next step always has to have a component of you on it, where if you don't hear back from them in this amount of time, you send another follow-up, right? So yeah. And then that also sets a precedence for timing, right? So once you set it out there, if they're used to seeing a follow-up from you within the hour, they know that you're going to respond in an hour. If they see the follow-up from you within a day, they know you're going to respond in a day. So depending on the level of alert I require for whatever project, shit's on fire. It's like, okay, well, this has to have a 5-minute, 10-minute follow-up system. Okay, cool. We're going to follow up every 5-10 minutes until the server fires no longer, right? So, because, I think for every hour Intel is down, they lose something ridiculous like $18 million or something crazy for the reporting engine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. So one time it took us 3 hours to fix something. So you can do the math, how much money they lost within those 3 hours to rebuild this thing that broke. And yeah, man. So sometimes it's 1 minute, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, right? So there you go.
All right. Well, there we are. So now you can let yourself have.
Now we do it.
Now. Hack of the week. I don't know, my microphone. I'm just realizing I did this whole thing without my microphone plugged in. Crappy headphone audio. Oh well. Hack of the week, Earl. What do we got?
You're still clear. So communication frameworks. We talked about 10 pertinent points for effective communication. The type of data required for successful communication. There's a couple of pieces of information that have to go back and forth. So the first thing is a role, right? So who is this for? And then the feature and benefit. What is it supposed to do? And then what is it supposed to actually achieve? So role, feature, benefit, real important. Scope. Without the scope, they're just going to guess, right? And there's this what is the end result? And this crazy set of words that has changed my life. And it's called definition of done. Definition of done. And when you give people a definition of done, at the end, I'm expecting a presentation that will work on Keynote and PowerPoint, that works across Google Cloud, that is saved as a PDF file, and where the animations work in the following orders, right? Like that's the definition of done. And you get so specific to the granular report where we're like, oh, wow, that's real specific. But when the more specific your definition of done, the better understanding everybody else has of what you're expecting at the end. So when this is done, this is what I'm expecting. I would like the PDF. I would like the working file behind it so that we can make modifications without you if we need to make modifications. As you make the modifications, I'd like the working file stored in this following folder so that I get all the new stuff as it comes out, right? So putting those things together, let's just skip a bunch of the back and forths where it's like, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? That definition of done has changed my life for the better, right? So, And
I like that.
I've been using it with everybody, not just business, even like wife and kids, right? Just talking to my kids, when this is done, like when the lawn is done, this is what it looks like. You've done this, you've done this, you've done this, etc., etc. And then they come back and go, hey, can you pay us for doing the lawn? Cool. Let's go check the definition of done, shall we?
Yeah.
Right? We check this. Oh, that's pretty good. We check this. Oh, that's pretty good. We check this. Completely forgot. Oh, yeah, forgot about that part. Right? So that definition of done for everything in my life has made all the difference in the world.
I think definition of done could have been the hack all on its own. That sounds amazing.
So, but you still need all the other pieces: the role, the feature, the benefit, the scope, the end result, and then the definition of done. Who is this for? Right? What will it be used for? Makes a huge difference. So the scope of this will be a printed thing versus this will be a QR code at the end, changes the end result of what the output is going to be because of the way they're going to make it, right? Like as an example, we made some graphics for a booth. I didn't tell them it was for a booth. I forgot. Having an 8 by 10 piece of paper printed is one thing. Having a booth the size of a wall is another.
Yeah.
So, not telling them the definition of done and the end result resulted in us having to redo the entire file from scratch because it wasn't big enough to print on a wall. Like, crap. Which put us behind the 8-ball. And again, I'm guilty of all these things too. So it's like, oh, I got to tell them that this is for a booth, right? Forgot, my bad. So, and the hilarity is they designed it with the schematics for the wall of a booth, but we didn't tell them what the dimensions were.
So the back wall of your booth was 8 inches by 10 inches.
That's what they thought. They're like, oh yeah, it's this regular letter size, right? Like, oh no, crap.
No.
Yeah.
So hey, I'm not understanding all this. I'm giving you feedback, and I am. What is it? What is this one? Oh, I forget which one it said. Oh yeah, asking questions to clarify any misunderstandings. There it is. So give me an example. So types of data used for successful communication. So roles, features, give me a real world scenario and what the example is for each one of these points on it.
So role would be as a presenter at a trade show, I need this backdrop feature so that it'll attract the attention of customers, benefit.
Okay.
The scope is that it needs to be on a light up wall. So when we put a light behind this thing, it shines through and it looks good. The wall, by the way, is this big. I forgot that part.
Right.
So had they stuck an 8 by 10,
that is,
10 by 10 feet, right?
Yeah.
Not inches. Big difference.
Classic example of that. You remember, have you seen This Is Spinal Tap?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know, you're foolish. It's about a fake rock band called Spinal Tap. I think it was one of the first mockumentaries. It's like documentary style.
Right. I know it. I just haven't watched it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So I've seen chunks of it. Yeah.
There's a scene in there where they have a song called Stonehenge, which is this epic song cycle about Stonehenge. And the guy's getting mad. He's like, no, we would need something epic for this. We need something really cool. We need like a Stonehenge mock-up thing. You know what I mean? And he pulls out a napkin and he draws it there on the napkin and says, go get this, get me this for the stage. Stonehenge, bloody, draws the shape of Stonehenge.
Yep. And
then the manager shows up with this model designer, and there's this Stonehenge this big sitting on the table. And he's like, so when you, this looks great. So when you make the real one, will it have the contours of this? She's like, what do you mean? The one for the stage. Like, this is the one. This is it here. And they look at the napkin and they put 11 and they wrote inches, or they put 2 ticks instead of the 1 tick. So it was 11 inches tall.
As opposed to feet.
Yeah. And so then the manager has to bring it back to the band. And then so they're performing the song. And then this thing comes down from the ceiling, this 11-inch tall Stonehenge with the lights on it and the music swelling. And this little 11-inch Stonehenge comes down. It's the funniest thing. Oh my God. But exactly that. If it said,
I screwed up the exact same way, inches to feet, and it was like, oh no.
But if you had all those pieces in there, if you said this is going to go on stage, this is meant to be the backdrop to a big stage number, someone might have said, so you wanted 11 inches though for a big backdrop? For someone might ask the question, clarified a misunderstanding in there, and they would have got what they wanted, and it wouldn't have been funny.
It wasn't funny for us. We spent $30,000 on that booth, and we're like, oh my god. So,
yeah.
So we had to remedy that situation real quick. But there you go. That's why end result definition of done has all those pieces: roles, feature, benefits, scope, Stonehenge, feet, not inches. There you go. So makes a big difference.
Cool. There we are. Well, this is the definition of done for our podcast. We've gone through all of the points.
We've appeased the AI masters, and we got through all the points, and we did the hack of the week, so we're good.
Yeah. So the only thing that's required now is the outro to be fully defined as a done.
There you go. And that button is right here. The outro.
Hit it.
Thanks for listening to Earl and the Idiot. We hope you learned something you can take action on this week. For more information or to contact the show, visit earlandtheidiot.com. And until next time, remember what Shakespeare said. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Thanks
everybody for joining us.
Cheers.